Funny story about that intro piece I shot. As it turns out, when you drink a massive bottle of wine and then attempt to shoot a YouTube video, sometimes you get your video settings incorrectly and you end up shooting the entire video in a lower quality. So here's to coffee. So in the last video, link up at the top, I mentioned that Macallan Sherry Cask was a good bang for your buck for around $55. Unfortunately, I was just at the store, and what I didn't realize is that in the last year, that price has gone up nearly $20. Sherry casks, to be fair, are prohibitively more expensive, but at the end of the day, I'm not sure how much that bottle is worth it anymore. Within the whiskey industry, you do actually have a lot of different bottles, but also a lot of different distilleries that recognize they have a popular product. They can sell it at a bit of a higher price just because they have that brand recognition. Macallan is the biggest offender. And what you end up with is a series of whiskeys that are at a price point that just aren't worth the liquid that's in the bottle. You're paying more for the label. With that, I give you my top 10 overpriced whiskeys. Number 10. Now, our number 10 whiskey, it is the king of bourbons. This has one of the highest brand recognition that I've seen outside of the Macallan. This is Blanton's. Now, Blanton's, don't get me wrong, it's an excellent bourbon. Back in the day, you could roll up to a store and it would be sitting there right on the shelf. But popularity kicked in, and all of a sudden, these bottles are scarce. It's actually rare to find just a standard bottle of Blanton's. What they do is allow certain stores, whether it's Total Wine, big box stores, or even local mom and pop shops, they let those stores buy up an entire barrel, which in all honesty is pretty cool. But then there's an upcharge. It's a special store pick, and then there's $5, $10, $15 tacked on. I would never buy a store pick at, say, Total Wine. Who flew out there? Jerry, new guy in marketing? Who knows? And then, of course, they have the marketing gimmick with the little horse statues on top. Each horse is a different part of the horse running animation, which is pretty cool once you have the whole set. But overall, all of this extra marketing, the scarcity, certainly if you're looking for this bottle on secondary, it's just not worth it. Number 9. Now, this next bottle, I hesitated to put on this list because it's a great bottle of whiskey. It's a great bourbon. And that's Elmer T. Now, the reason that it's on this list, while the MSRP is $38, I have never seen it at MSRP. I've never seen it on a store shelf. I've never even seen it on a limit 1 per customer display case in Total Wine. It's absent. These bottles are impossible to find, and as a result, you have to go on the secondary market. And on the secondary market, this is when it just becomes overpriced. It's a bourbon. Yes, one of the highest quality bourbons, but at the same time, way too much to spend. Number 8. This is one I recently revisited, and I was sorely disappointed. Lagavulin's Distiller's Edition. Now, this is a whiskey that I assume they're taking their Lagavulin 16 peated whiskey, which is very good, and they're finishing that whiskey in a sherry cask. If you find a deal on this bottle, and you've never had a peated sherry before, I'd go for it, absolutely. Recently at Costco, I saw it for $99, and then during the holidays, they did a pick 3 Lagavulin Distiller's Edition and get $20 off each bottle. $80, I'd say that's a pretty good price. But on Total Wine right now, they're trying to charge $135. That's about $50 more than I would be willing to pay for this. At the end of the day, if you want a nice peated sherry, about $105 to $115, you can find an excellent bottle of Springbank. Number 7. This one goes back to our opener, where we talked about Macallan. Now, Macallan doubled cask at $55. I would say that's overpriced. But Macallan as a whole, unfortunately, I feel like lately, over the last 5-6 years, as whiskey has come back in style, Macallan has become more of a brand than a distillery. Don't get me wrong, they put out excellent stuff. That being said, a lot of their whiskey is priced very strategically, in the sense that they'll look at the $45, $55 price range, and they'll say, put that bottle at $55. If people are coming into the store to buy a $50 bottle of whiskey, they'll pay $5 more for the Macallan. And this goes all the way up the line. You have the Macallan 15 that's priced well over $100. A 15-year-old Scotch you can pick up from another distillery for far cheaper. Number 6. So we're going to talk about him, ladies and gents. The man, the myth, the legend, Conor McGregor. Yeah, he looks like a fun guy to hang out with. As long as he doesn't bring Proper 12 along. My favorite part about Proper 12 is just the blatant cash grab it is. Oh, I do MMA. I make whiskey too? Number 5. Now, this one is a little bit of a heartbreaker. It wasn't 2 years ago that I was on Reddit and people were listing their daily drinkers, a bottle of whiskey that they get into every single day. And it's not going to break the budget. The bottle is Henry McKenna 10-year bottled in bond. Unfortunately for us, in 2019, it won the San Francisco Gold Medal for Best Whiskey. We're not talking about Best Bourbon. We're not talking about Best American Malt or some niche category where it's really only facing off against a few select whiskeys. We're talking about Best Whiskey overall against the Scotches, the Japanese whiskeys, the Irish whiskeys. The entire world was up against this bourbon. And this bottle that you could have found within $30 to $45, all of a sudden, instead of dropping $40, even after tax, for this bottle of whiskey, all of a sudden it's $45, and then it's $50. And by that time, the shelves are cleared, and it becomes this special allocated bottle. And if you can ever find this bottle at MSRP, $30, $40, $45 maybe dollars, that's a perfect price for a daily drinker. But on the secondary, not a chance. This goes into the same category as Elmer T and Blanton's. It's fantastic. If you can find a bottle, grab it. Number 4. Now, this one is the cask strength variety of a daily drinker of mine, Four Roses Single Barrel. Except when they bottle this out of the cask, they take it straight from the cask. They don't cut it with water. The special thing about this bottle was the variation of mash types that were actually labeled, the different grains that went into the initial mash, as well as them being store picks. Then these bottles were something that I was incredibly excited to pick up. While this bottle wasn't ever a daily drinker at around $60, this was always sitting on my shelf when I was running low. I would always look for the next store pick to pick up. But again, I completely understand it. It fell into the trap of popularity, and you have the current price at Total Wine. This one, I'd take a pass on. Number 3. Now this one might come as a little controversial. Personally, I feel this way because it's become a secondary market nightmare that's more of a collector's item than actually a drinkable spirit. And I also say it's controversial because there we go. I literally have a bottle behind me. When it comes to the bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, it has become a collector's item, even to the point where the MSRP of these bottles are hundreds of dollars. I've even seen people argue online that the oldest bottle of Pappy, Pappy 23, is not as good as Pappy 20. And yet you're paying MSRP significantly more for Pappy 23. The secondary of Pappy 23 is thousands of dollars. But at the end of the day, what is Pappy? Pappy is an excellently crafted wheated bourbon. There are tons of wheated bourbons out there. If you're interested in a good alternative choice, a much cheaper choice is the Weller line. Number 2, this bottle, Kentucky Owl Confiscated Bourbon. Kentucky Owl, I would put it closer to the Macallan, except they messed up. They messed up in the sense that they had a great staple within the bourbon industry. Some of their bottles of whiskey are priced close to $200, and people hands down will say that it's worth it. Well then, instead of the Macallan that makes good whiskey, they just tack on an extra 20%. Kentucky Owl, they decided to keep the same price, but lower the quality. In doing some research for this video, I found this beautiful, blurry graphic perfectly describing this blogger's feelings about Kentucky Owl's deliciousness over time. Very scientific. Overall, if you paid MSRP for this bottle, if you paid over $100, I'm sorry. I'll buy it off you for like 50. So last but not least, it's horribly overpriced, but it's marketable, ladies and gentlemen. Johnnie Walker Blue. This isn't even a single malt. It's a blended whiskey. Now, that doesn't mean that it's bad, but being priced, I've seen it $150 to $200, always locked behind glass cases at these big box stores. I've seen a Johnnie Walker Blue sitting next to a Macallan 25. Don't go to Total Wine and spend $200. Spend that money on any other scotch. If you find yourself looking at that glass case, you can find something better. So there you have it, your top 10 bottles of overpriced whiskey. So thank you for tuning in. If you like what you saw, please like and subscribe. And if you don't want to drink alone, come have a drink with me. I stream over on Twitch every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Details below. I'll see y'all later.